As our first speaker, I want to introduce Orlev. Unfortunately, she'll be joining us online due to the geopolitical tension there back home in Israel. She couldn't fly in here, but thanks to KELA for generously agreeing to tune in online and give this compelling speech online as well. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Orlev, the Vice President and Sales Engineering at KELA Cyber. Please, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you everyone for attending this session and also for hosting us online. I'm terribly sorry for not being able to be there on site, but I'm sure that we will the next time. So today we're going to talk about the connection between initial access to ransomware attack. Just quickly before, as Dana mentioned, my name is Orlev, VP of Sales Engineering at KELA. I've been working in the company for the past 5 years, been spending some time before and in the Israeli military intelligence. And what I would like to do today is to talk a bit more on the way that the underground communities are currently working, the kind of connections that we can find out there, and the structure in this ecosystem that we see. And more specifically on the connection between initial accesses being offered for sale directly to ransomware attacks. So we will start with a bit of explanation on the challenges of the cybercrime underground communities. We'll dive into some real stories, real cases to demonstrate the insights and to explain the way we got to the conclusions that, that we will present today. And then we'll also talk about how we can actually stop such events from happening. But before we do so, just a bit about the last year that we've seen. So in 2023, as Dana mentioned, we see, as always, and also as we can see in the current year, a constant rise in ransomware events. We see more and more victims from every size, every type of organization, every geography. This is just continue to be a problem globally everywhere that we are looking at. The damage that the ransomware events are causing is also getting quite higher. So, for example, if we take a look on the Kyivstar attack, the telecommunication company in Ukraine, we could see half a country almost shutting down by one ransomware attack, one attack against one organization. So obviously this problem needs to be addressed, and this is not going anywhere anytime soon. At the same time, what we can see is that there were more than 1,800 different network accesses offered for sale in the different underground communities. Now, when we are saying network access, and we will talk about it quite a lot today, we're talking about threat actors. We call them initial access brokers, that their entire activity is to gain very sensitive accesses into organizations' network. There are mostly VPNs, RDP, Citrix one that can very easily give the attackers the access that they need to facilitate their attack, and are posting them for sale in different underground communities, mostly in unique Russian-speaking forums in the cybercrime underground communities. And this is also getting more and more popular. We see more and more such offerings, and it makes sense when we see the higher number of ransomware events overall. At the same time, and though we are not going to drill down into too much discussion over this specific attack vector, but what we could see in the past year, and most specifically even in Europe, is a huge rise in the use of valid accounts as an attack vector. Now, when we say valid accounts, we mean infostealer logs, accounts that are coming directly from infected machine, most likely employees' machine, that were infected by an infostealer malware. And the reason why this is getting to be the most or part of the most popular attack vector and connected directly to network access being offered for sale and to ransomware attacks is that they are not only stealing the specific credentials to the accounts that is targeted, but also a lot of additional PIIs and information on the system, for example, that can facilitate the attack, cookies, autofills, and so on. So also here we see more and more attacks in Europe caused by such accounts. We see more usage in these kind of info-stealer malwares and more machine, significantly more machine getting infected by these kind of malwares. Now, the main challenge when we are trying to understand how the two of them are connected and to better understand how threat actors in general are operating and how these kind of activities are facilitated is the fact that when we're looking at the underground communities, there is a chaos out there. There are so many different sources where these kind of offerings can be published. They are being open and appeared out there like each and every day. Not all of them are credible, a lot of different attackers. We really need to be able to target a bit more on what it is that is relevant, and in order to get to the specific post of relevancy, we need to be able to filter through quite a lot of noise. And this is what we are basically doing in the back end. We're not going to talk too much on the activity of the company, but just for the sake of the discussion, in the back end of everything, we are looking into the underground communities. We are trying to understand out of all of these chaos, where are the places that we need to have visibility into, whether it is typical hacking forums, automated shops, botnet infected machines market, web shells, webmails, and next to all of that also ransomware blogs in instant messaging platform like Telegram and so on. We are trying to filter through all of that, the most credible ones, the ones that are actually legit and that have the most interesting threat actors operating there, and then to bring them into our own data lake. So a lot of the stuff that you will see today are coming from our ability to have visibility into all of these sources to one place, but also to historical data coming out of them. The power in having everything in one place, nothing getting erased, even if a source is saved and removed, the post was disappeared from one of these sources, is helping us to find this kind of connections in the underground communities, to go way back and to investigate the first step where the threat actor started his activity and to connect them to their affiliates. It also helps us to do our type of research without exposing our scope and targets in the underground communities. And that is what will be demonstrated today through some real examples that we will be talking about. But before we do so, just a bit more on network accesses in general. So as mentioned, we've seen quite a lot of such offerings in the past year, so more than 1,800 network access being posted for sale. At the same time, and very important number that we will be talking about quite a lot today, what we've noticed based on quite a lot of research in the backend and quite a lot of cases such as this that we've investigated closely is that it takes between a day to 3 days for an access to be sold to an attacker. This number is crucial. It means that there is not a lot of time for the access to be offered out there, and that will influence quite a lot as we will continue the discussion today. What we also see is that the median price for an access to be sold in 2023 stood on $700 US. It is quite high comparing to other offerings that we can see out there, but reasonable comparing the ransom fee that we can see quite a lot of times being collected from the end victim of this path. Now, the question obviously when we are facing this subject is how to actually find this kind of connection, how we can connect an offering of an access in one place to the publication of a ransomware victim in another place. And the main challenge when it comes to that is, first of all, that initial access brokers not usually publishing the name of the victim, so they know that researchers such as ourselves are looking at them. They know that we have access to their sources and therefore trying to hide their activity by not publishing the name of the victim when they are offering the access for sale. However, they do publish a list of properties of the organization, of the victim. So we know in the back end that there are some kind of specific properties that are mostly interesting for ransomware operators. These are the ones that they will publish. They will publish the revenue of the organization, the size of it, the industry, everything that the attacker later on needs to, in order to understand whether this is a relevant victim or target for his activity, how much money he can get out of him during a ransom attack, given his revenue and size and so on. And this is what we normally see out there. Luckily, these are not only valuable for the attackers themselves, not only helping them to understand whether this is a valuable victim, but also for us. So what you can see over here on the screen, let me zoom in a bit, are a few examples. Most of them are just from a few days ago, of victims that we were able to identify, the network access victims that we were able to identify by name, again, just by looking into the same criteria that the threat actors are looking into. And the reason that I'm showing this to you is because it's always important to understand the way the threat actors are operating, the way that they are thinking, and the way that this ecosystem is working in order to understand how to use this against them and to be able to better understand their activity, and in the end also how we can get insights into this kind of activity and maybe also prevent that moving forward. Now, at the same time that we are looking into initial access brokers, we are obviously also looking into the ransomware groups, their affiliates, both their ransomware blogs, but also their users and entities that they are operating in the hacking forums and communities. We found these kind of connections and we are monitoring closely. That helps us later on find these kind of connections and understand, or better understand, how they are operating and how they are facilitating their attack. So for example, if we look just at 4 ransomware groups from the past year that were found to be connected to network accesses that are actively using network accesses posted for sale to their own attack, we could see, for example, that Akira ransomware were specifically mentioning in a security file that they provided to one of their victims, that they got the access from what they call the dark web, that they bought it there. Alpha V, for example, and let's translate the post over here of a user that they are operating, are actively looking to hire initial access brokers to facilitate the attack, to gain the accesses that they are interested. By the way, they are also listening the regions that they are mostly interested in. Mallocs are actively looking for accesses, so they know which access they need. Again, VPN is rising here as one of the most popular network access of interest, and also, by the way, specifying the type and the properties of the organization that they are looking for, the revenue, the type of user, the geographic, and in this case, they are definitely not interested in attacking government or education sector. Night ransomware is a nice example to active research that we did and connections that we were able to find directly from the underground communities and found to be linked to network accesses being offered for sale, and like them, there are many more. Again, the importance of that is to understand that they are not acting on their own. There is a full chain in the way of different actors that are doing different things and in the end facilitating all together one attack. And to put that all into one graph to better understand, to better understand the entire cycle of attack, what we can see, and the bottom line for all of this research is that usually it starts with an access being listed for sale. It takes between a day to 3 days until it's been sold to an attacker. The network is later on being compromised, the ransomware is being deployed, the negotiation is started, and then the ransom fee is either paid or the name of the victim is being published in one of the ransomware blogs. We will come back to that a couple of times as we'll go through some real cases right now, but do keep in mind this structure as we will talk on some real stories right now. So let's start with the Medibank attack. Medibank, for those who doesn't know, is a health insurance company from Australia. The attack was discussed quite a lot when it happened. And in the end, what we could see in our systems, in our data lake, is that it started with an access being offered for sale on a Telegram channel. That happened on end of 2022 in September, and not too long after that we were already able to see the publication of the victim on the ransomware blog. In the back end of everything, we could see that while the access was published on September 16th, only 2 days after that, it was already sold to an attacker. In this case, we could see that the threat actor, I will not try to pronounce his name, confirmed that the access was sold, and at the same time, we've noticed in our sources that it was likely sold to a ransomware affiliate. It took around a month until Medibank publicly confirmed that they were attacked by a ransomware. And then not too long after that, the negotiation starts, and Medibank, rejected and did not agree to pay the ransom. Therefore, a day after that, they were already published on the Revil blog name and shame sites. As you can see, the entire cycle of attack took less than 2 months. And again, this is highly important to understand how this is happening and how many different players are involved in the way. Another a bit more up-to-date example, the Slovak National Library that was just recently attacked. We could see on the beginning of the year a VPN access, in this case with the full URL published for sale by one of the threat actors, G-Stars, the name of this initial access vector. And not too long after that, we could already see the publication on the Lockbit name and shame site. Accounting firm in Brazil, again, starting from one access, Citric access in this case, being posted for sale in March 2022. In this case, by the way, you can see that they are delivering a Zoom info link. We know that threat actors are using quite a lot the Zoom info service, which is quite useful, I would say, for us as researchers. And in April, the publication was already available in the ransomware site. If we'll take a look a bit, on not the most updated incident, but I think it's really interesting to also explore this attack because of the insights that we can get out of it. Bangkok Airways were found to be attacked in 2021. In this case, Babam, back then a very popular initial access broker, published access VPN AnyConnect access for them for sale. And around a month after that, they were already published on the name and shame site of the ransomware. When we're looking at taking a deeper look into the path of attack, into the entire cycle of attack over here, we can see that while the access was published on July 20th, on August 5th, it was sold to a threat actor named Alice J. Douglas. In the back end of that, again, having visibility into different sources and the option to correlate between different monikers, what we could see is that the same entity was showing interest in also joining an affiliate program of a ransomware group. So that is a strong connection to this group. On August 23rd, they already discovered that they were hit by the ransomware, and merely 2 days after that, Lockbit already published their name on the ransomware blog. Again, a bit more than a month from the moment that the access was offered for sale. And maybe one last example of a Chinese holding company. In this case, we could see that on May 27th, an access for this company was offered for sale. The name of the company, by the way, again, was identified by an active research that we are doing, since they were not listed by name there. Only a day after that, the access was already sold, and on September 11th, they were exposed on the ransomware blog. Now, we've talked about quite a lot, but the main question that is raised is how we can actually prevent, using these insights and using this understanding, the next attack from happening. And that is obviously where CTI comes into the picture. I will not talk about that in 2 minute details, but the main idea behind it is that we need to have visibility into all of these places. We need to be able to know what's going on, but we also need to be able to understand how to use that, to harness that, in order to actually prevent stuff from happening. So if we'll go back to the first slide that we showed on the cycle of attack. When we are looking at this entire chain of attack, there is one significant point where we can actually stop the attack from happening very easily, which is at that stage where the access is being posted for sale, and the access is currently available in the underground communities. Because if we are able to catch it at that point, to prevent the threat actor from getting the access, to close it as soon as possible, we can actually prevent the entire cycle of attack from happening, in which we know that from the moment that they are already inside the victim's network, trying to prevent or stop such an attack is almost impossible. If we're looking at it from a bit more technical point of view, so that is actually the only point where the kind of access, the kind of the attack is surfacing to the external point of view and is visible from outside. And this is where we are focusing on. And this is the main message that we can take out of here. There is a way to try to stop at least most of the attacks. And that is if we are able to track threat actors and to know in real time that there is currently an access, a valid account, some kind of popular initial access vector currently surfacing out there that we can get to and mitigate before it's getting to the hand of an attacker. So again, very quickly, the idea is to be able to monitor in real time, to understand the current trends, to understand how the threat actors are operating, and to use this against them to actually prevent stuff from happening and being a bit more active in protecting organizations and preventing these kind of attacks. I want to thank you all for bearing with me for the past almost 30 minutes. I know it was quite a lot. Feel free to scan the QR code that is available for the attendees here in the session. If you want to see a bit more, to play with it on your own, and to experience this research and many others through our own data lake. And also, in case we won't have enough time for questions, so ask any follow-up questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Or. Are there any questions from the room? Not. Yes, there is one. Just a minute.
Yeah, thank you very much. Interesting presentation. My question is about your last suggestion, how to cut the cycle at the very beginning of it. That sounds theoretically a very good solution. How you see it in practice? Do every company need to monitor these action sites where this stolen information is published, or how you see in practical terms companies could use your suggested recipe? Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. That is an excellent question. So basically what we believe in is very strong automation. Yes, every company today should be monitoring for these kind of attack vectors, whether it is valid accounts, that again was a bit out of the discussion today, but is a very strong initial access vector, or it is proper network accesses being offered for sale out there. What we do in the backend is to facilitate the automation on top of that. So by monitoring, for example, for your domain name, we will be able to let you know in real time that there is such an access, such an offering currently available out there. You will know about that in real time, so you will be able to take the necessary action. And today, unfortunately, we see that it's relevant for every size of organization, from the smaller one to the biggest one. So our recommendation is yes, for everyone to be able to quickly monitor for that. We can talk about that in more details if you want, since we are not sharing today any platform, but there are nice solutions for that.
We had one question from online speakers. I think you mentioned that during the speech, but just as a repetition, how much does such an access cost in the black market?
So it really differs. It can be from a couple of hundreds to a couple of thousands and more, really depend on the size of the organization. The median price in 2023 stood on $700 US. But think about it like that: the more the ransomware group can get out of the victim, the higher the price of the network access will be. They know today how much the ransomware groups can actually get as the fee, and the prices are getting higher accordingly.
Thank you. There's one more question in the front of the room.
Yeah, just one question. So you know that an access is out there. What is kind of your suggestion on it? Because how do I actually know what kind of access it is? And is the idea that I buy the access back so that I actually have the information which account it is? Or where do you go from there?
That is a good question. I have a very long answer. I'll try to do it short. So basically, it really depends. In some cases, they are providing enough details for the organization internally to understand where the access is coming from. So our work on identifying the name of the victim sometimes is enough. In other cases, so the next step that we will do if we can't understand which user is it, is to try to get samples out of the threat actor. So in the backend of stuff, we do have a very strong team that is capable of also interacting with threat actor and try to get from them a bit more details. So here we are trying to reach out and to get out of him a screenshot of the access, like a proof that he actually has the access. And then a lot of times the organization, our clients, can use that in order to understand where is the access, which user is it. And if not, there is also the option to actually buy it. So there is like an escalation level that we are trying to do together when we come to this situation. Normally we don't need, I don't recall a case, at least not in the past year or so, that we had to actually buy an access. We usually, it is usually enough, the first part of it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Or, for tuning in online and giving this excellent speech. Unfortunately, I cannot give you the present, but I know you have Representative Christian here, and also for others. If you're interested in talking to KELA, there's a representative here also in person. Yeah, just thank you, just wave, and I'll give the present to him. So we'll see how it goes.
Sure.
Will be forwarded. I'll keep an eye on you. So thank you so much.
Keep an eye. Thank you all for hosting us.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.